This is the Louie Tee Network.
Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie Tee? Welcome to Lockdown Coverage, Week 4 in the National Football League. Your man Louie Tee's covering the entire NFL like a blanket. Week 4 action between the Tennessee Titans and the Houston Texans. AFC South family business. You know how this goes. You already know how this goes. If these two teams said they ain't did it, then they ain't did it. But if they did, well, that's family business. And this is some big family business here because a win by the Texans at home would put 2 games of separation between them and every other team in the division after the Colts lost to Jacksonville over in London. So this was a huge game. Everyone else in the division would be sitting at 1-3, while the Texans would be at 3-1 after the first quarter of the season. So huge game indeed in this division. Before we get to the breakdown of this football game, welcome to the Louie Tee Network. I'm your man, Louie Tee. Thank you for joining me. If this is your first time watching this program or this channel, subscribe to the Louie Tee Network for more great content in 2016 and beyond. I'm also on Twitter, at In the Lab Room is the Twitter handle, as you see above. All my social media platforms will be scrolling across the screen. Be sure to follow me on Twitter. I'm also on Facebook. In the Lab Room is the Facebook page. Go ahead, give me that thumbs up if you're there and you have a Facebook as well. So let's jump into this breakdown because Titans had an opportunity to not only get back to 500 on the season, but take a share of first place in this division with a win here. Could they do it on the road? Let's see. Likes, dislikes, banana in the tailpipe is how I like to break these games down on Lockdown Coverage. And I like to start with the likes in the first half of the road team, that being the Tennessee Titans in this ball game. First half likes for the Titans. I love the answer by this team down 17-3. We've seen this team battle adversity all season long. This is a team that was down in Detroit, could have quit in that game, didn't, end up winning that game, coming from behind and stealing that one on the road at Ford Field. Had an opportunity down 17-3 versus the Raiders to quit in that game. Came back, made it a ball game, had a chance to tie late in that game. Here's another instance of them fighting. Down 17-3. Got to stop digging themselves a hole. 3 straight games they were down early. Here's another example of that. Down 17-3 on the road against the Texans. Could have buried their head, could have said, here we go again, and crumbled on the road, and this could have turned into an ugly blowout. Instead, they rally and tie this game up at 17 apiece. And the big drive, down 17-3, you needed a drive there to stop the bleeding, and they got it. Huge deep ball down the field to Rashard Matthews, and that set them up with a nice DeMarco Murray run down inside the 5. Murray polished off the drive with a TD run of 1 yard and got them back into the game at 17-10. They would get an interception from McCourty that stunted a drive of the Texans, gave them an opportunity to get some points, and so I really thought they did some good things down 17-3. The next thing on my likes list is DeMarco Murray. I thought DeMarco Murray was outstanding in this game yet again. He's been fabulous for them this entire season. They said they wanted to commit to a power running game, and that for the most part they have. He had 25 carries in this game. I'd love to see Derrick Henry get a little bit more involved, but that being said, DeMarco Murray has been Mr. Do-It-All. He's caught it out of the backfield. He's pass protect, and he's run the football. I don't know what else you want out of DeMarco Murray. He's been stellar for the Titans since coming over in that trade. You go to the Texans in the first half of this game. The fast start offensively for me is on the likes list. 14 points on 2 beautiful drives to start the game. They moved it right down the field on the opening drive, came back, got the football again, and went right back down. Brock Osweiler coming off the rough outing versus the Patriots on Thursday Night Football. 9 of 10, 112 yards and 2 touches on the first 2 possessions. Beautiful throw in the back of the end zone to C.J. Fedorowicz for the first one, and getting the football to Will Fuller on the second touchdown. So, again, I thought it was magnificently drawn up on those first 2 possessions, and they went out and executed, did the Texans offense to the tune of 14 points, jumping out on the Titans 14 to nothing in this ball game. Will Fuller is the next thing on my likes list. How can you not love what this guy's come in and done as a rookie? If you want to, if you're feeling like doing this right now, and I know it's early and there's a lot of football left to play, but if you want to go ahead and put the Offensive Rookie of the Year in the bag, you can go ahead and put it in the bag, and I'll seal it up for you, and I'll deliver it to Mr. Will Fuller the fifth at the end of the season. Everybody said that this was Ezekiel Elliott's award to lose, essentially. Well, I'm here to tell you Will Fuller has already put his name in the hat to be the Offensive Rookie of the Year, and right now he is delivering. I'm not even talking about what this guy provided as a special teams boost in this game. We'll talk about that a little bit later. This guy's a tremendous receiver, and although he's going to drop a ball usually once a game, he didn't have any drops. As a matter of fact, he made some spectacular catches in this game. This guy's a dynamic playmaker, the likes of which you won't see coming out of college football very often at the receiver position. His combination of ball skills and speed are game-changing, and he made more plays in this game, which he's done all season long for this Texans football team. Quentin Demps with an interception. Poor decision by Mariota. Gets out of the pocket, throws across his body. He could have just tucked it and ran. I don't understand why he felt the need to try to make this throw to Delanie Walker, who was open. I get what he was trying to do. It was just poor execution on his part. Forced it, ends up turning it over with an interception to Quentin Demps. The end of the first half field goal by the Texans. I love points at the end of halves, and this was a huge turn of events. The Tennessee Titans had come back and tied this game up at 17 to get the field goal, to give you the lead at halftime. Huge deal for this Texans team going into the halftime break. It was poor execution, but at the end of the day, the results were what they were looking for, and that was a field goal going into the halftime break. Speaking of which, let's get to the second half, the second half likes for both teams. We'll go back to the Titans in their second half likes, and first half dislikes for the Tennessee Titans. Slow start. You get down 14-0, 17-3. 2 separate times you're down 14 early in this game. It can't happen. You're not a good enough team to fall behind and come back. And that's been the story of the Titans this season. Too many deficits early in ball games that they have to try to climb out of. They're not good enough. They don't score enough points. You don't want to put yourself in that type of position. The one win they've gotten this season, they didn't fall behind that far versus the Detroit Lions. They kept the game within reach, and they were able to strike late. They have to stop giving up It seems like they give up 17 points immediately in just about every ball game. Outside of the one win, and then, of course, week 1, the 2 turnovers by Mariota resulting in scoop and score and pick sixes to lose to the Vikings. Outside of those 2 matchups, they've given up 17 in the first half, and they give up 20 in this ball game. They have to stop getting off to such slow starts. Too many penalties in this game for the Titans. They had too many men on the field penalty that created a field goal attempt. Texans are going to have to punt the football on 4th down. It's going to be a 58-yard field goal, so they elect to then punt the football. And instead of them having to punt, too many men on the field by the Titans creates an opportunity for them to take the punting unit off and bring the field goal unit on, which they did. 53 yards, Nick Novak drills it. You just give up 3 points on a play in a game where you can't afford to give up 3 points. You're not good enough offensively. Those are the types of mistakes that bad football teams make and find themselves losing football games because of it. And if you want to know why the Titans are 1-3, look no further than mistakes like that one right there that cost you points in a ball game. Marcus Mariota with the interception. I talked about this already. Throwing across his body for what? When you got an opportunity to just tuck it and run and pick up about 5 or 6 yards on the play. Instead, he sees Delaney Walker, who was open, by the way. I don't want to dismiss the fact that he was open, but it's a tough throw. He missed it, and he threw it right to Quentin Depps for an interception. And then the pass interference penalty on Parrish Cox at the end of the half, which allowed the Texans to get the field goal to go up 20-17. A big mistake by Parrish Cox there. You can't give up the pass interference penalty, which allows the Texans, who managed the clock horribly at the end of the first half, to get a field goal when they had basically pissed away the opportunity to get a field goal in the first half. So big mistake by Parrish Cox there, allowing the Texans to get that field goal that they didn't deserve because of their poor clock management late in the first half. You go to the Texans in their first half dislikes. Missed 47-yard field goal by Nick Novak. You drill it from 53 and then you come back and miss a 47-yarder. Inexcusable. Knock the field goals home. Put this Titans team away. You miss a field goal of that length, you're going to give up some great field position, and that he did. Make your field goals if you're Nick Novak. Brock Osweiler with his first INT of the day. The Titans turn it over, and Brock Osweiler literally on the very next play turns it right back over. So no harm, no foul in terms of the Titans turning it over, because Osweiler, trying to force the football to Nuke, turned it over, and great play by McCourty to take the football away from Hopkins. Ball was behind him. Nuke tried to fight for it, but it ended up in the hands of McCourty on the play. End of the first half execution was horribly executed by Bill O'Brien and his group. That's something I expect out of a first-year head coach or interim head coach. I don't expect that out of a guy that has won this division, last season and has been the head coach of this Texans team now in his 4th season. That's inexcusable. He has to be better than that. This ended the first half execution. There was 35 seconds left in the first half. Texas had 2 timeouts. They get a completion in bounds. They call their first timeout. The second timeout is then taken after a completion outside that saw them be short of the first down by about a yard or so. They're in field goal range, however, so they can kick the field goal. They let some time run off. Then they call the timeout. Then they come out on the field and get a delay of game after the timeout, which pushes them back and makes them a little bit further than they would be comfortable with Novak attempting the field goal. So then they have to go for it on 4th and 6. They get lucky. Pass interference by Parrish Cox gives them an opportunity to kick the field goal. They should have come away with nothing there. The end of the first half execution was horrendous, and they deserved to get nothing. They got lucky and got help from the Titans. Let's move on to the second half likes, and we go back to Tennessee. Tremendous opening drive of the second half, 13 plays, 59 yards, 8 minutes of that third quarter clock gone after 1 possession. However, it only resulted in 3. Somehow, some way, you got to get in the end zone there if you're the Titans. You can't afford to kick a field goal after putting together such an extraordinary drive after the halftime break. Parrish Cox with an interception, the second on the day for Brock Osweiler. Cox right there, again, trying to force the football to Nuke, making a play and getting the football back for the Titans. Titans with a huge 4th and 1 stop. They don't get this stop, the game is over. They tried to run a fullback dive to Jay Prosh, and they stoned him at the line of scrimmage. Great job by this Titans defense to give the offense one last crack at tying this ball game up. Great job by this defense to give them a chance to potentially tie this football game up. Texas second half likes. Will Fuller's punt return for a touchdown. They did nothing in the second half offensively. They did nothing to dissuade the Titans from really taking this game from them. The Titans self-destructed in the second half. They missed opportunities. They had every opportunity to take this ball game, and they simply refused to do so. So Will Fuller took matters into his own hands with a beautiful punt return. Nobody laid a finger on him. Great blocking. The Gunners lost. He got the football with a ton of space, and all he did was run to daylight and green grass and dominated on that particular punt return, untouched into the end zone, gives the Texans the 27-20 lead, a lead they would not relinquish. That was the game-winning score in this game. So huge punt return. Again, Will Fuller doing everything in his power to help this Texans team in his young career. This guy, again, if you want to put Rookie of the Year offensively in a bag and just give it to me, I will hold it and put it aside for Will Fuller the fifth if you would like me to, because this guy right now is lighting it up. Second half dislikes. Titans settling for a field goal on that opening possession. That is something that I'm not a huge fan of. You put together that type of drive, 13 plays, 59 yards, 8 minutes of clock, you got to find a way to get in the end zone. They didn't. And when you lose a game by 7 points and you have some opportunities that you don't take advantage of, it's kind of tough and a bitter pill to swallow. Punt return given up for a touchdown. Got to win 2 out of the 3 phases of the game in order to call yourself a winner on most weeks. The Titans didn't win, to me, any facet of the game. Offensively, I thought they struggled. Defensively, they made some plays. You could argue that they won the defensive battle with forcing 2 turnovers, getting a huge 4th and 1 stop. You could argue that if you like. That's fine, but they lost on special teams, giving up the punt return for a touchdown, and ultimately that proved to be the deciding factor in this game. Titans wasted 2 timeouts before they even got to the fourth quarter. You know, you're in the mid stages of the fourth quarter, and you look up at the Titans, and they only got 1 timeout left. In a game where you see this is coming down to the wire, you can't waste second half timeouts. I talk about this each and every single week. It is one of my biggest pet peeves. Do not waste your second half timeouts. Sometimes I will actually err on the side of a delay of game, depending on the situation of the game, down in distance, where you're on the field, all of those things come into play. You just can't waste second half timeouts. You just can't. In this particular game, had the Titans had all 3 of their timeouts, even after they weren't able to convert on 4th down, they still could have got the football back yet again if they would have had all their timeouts. Instead, they only got the football back with about 4 seconds left on the clock because they wasted 2 of their timeouts. If they even had 1 more timeout, they would have got the football back potentially with at least 40 some odd seconds and a chance. At least they would have had a chance. When you waste your timeouts, you limit the amount of opportunities you can have to possess the football late in the ball game, and you really limit the amount of time you're going to have if you do get the football back late in the ball game. Mariota's accuracy, we got to talk about this. This man was 13 of 29 in this game, less than 50% passing. He was errant all game long, and this is something that I've seen from him. And remember, my biggest knock on Marcus Mariota coming out of college, coming out of Oregon, was that he threw into a bunch of open windows at Oregon. Not a lot of throws on tape where this guy is threading the needle into some tight coverage and hitting a receiver. A lot of easy reads, a lot of open receivers. I said I needed to see him throw accurately with defenders draped all over his receiver. I needed to see him throw guys open. I needed to see him be able to fit the football into some tight spaces. I haven't seen that from him throughout his career consistently. He'll do it every now and again, but he missed a bunch of guys who were open that had a step. Though they weren't wide open like they were at Oregon. This is not the Pac-12. This is the NFL. You're going to have to make some of these tough stick throws. He fails to do so week in and week out, and I thought this was one of his worst performances in terms of accuracy. Again, the numbers speak for themselves. If you watch the game, you'll see him miss a bunch of guys who are open, NFL open, not college open, NFL open, where you've got to hit them. You're not going to get much more space than this in this league, and he flat out missed. 13 for 29 tells you all you need to know about some of the misses from Marcus Mariota in this game. He has to be more accurate. Have not been impressed with him this season, to be honest with you. Outside of that game-winning drive versus Detroit, haven't been blown away from what I've seen out of Marcus Mariota through this first 4 games of this season. He's been somewhat of a disappointment to me, if you ask my honest opinion. Second half dislikes for the Texans. Brock Osweiler's second interception. Look, I understand you want to get the football to Nuke. There are different ways to get him the football, but don't turn the football over trying to get him the ball. He was smothered on the first interception. He was smothered. He was smothered on this one. There's no need to force the football to him and turn it over. Don't put the entire offense and that possession at risk trying to get the football to Nuke. I knew he's a hell of a receiver, and if it's one thing to throw him a jump ball, it's another one to throw him a bullet when he's not even looking and then have it be inaccurate at that. Brock has to clean that up. And they got to be better at getting Nuke the football. Speaking of which, my next dislike, nukeless until 8:53 in the fourth quarter. There is no excuse for DeAndre Hopkins to not have caught a football for that long in any given game, ever. It's never okay for him to be into the fourth quarter with 8 minutes and 53 seconds left until he gets his first catch. That's not cool. I don't care if it's a bubble screen, a hitch. I don't give a damn. He needs to touch the football way before that. Get him going early in the first quarter. Get him a touch on the first possession of the game. Like I said, hitch, screen. I don't care how you do it. You get that man the football. That's way too long for him to have not touched the football. He's too dynamic and too good of a receiver in this league to only have one catch and have it come that late in the ball game. Failed 4th and 1 stop. I didn't like the play call. Handing it to your fullback, Jay Prosh, on the dive. He never even got a chance. The offensive line was blown up. They were 2 yards in the backfield. He didn't stand a chance. I would love, if look, you're going to ride Lamar Miller and you want to hand the football off, that's who you give it to. I probably wouldn't trust Brock in that situation, maybe either myself, but still, give it to Lamar Miller. Jay Prosh didn't even get a head start. At least if you would have gave that to Lamar Miller, he would have had an opportunity to get ahead of steam, have a lead blocker in front of him, and maybe pick up the first down. I thought that was a poor call. It was poorly executed, that's for certain, on the field, and it failed, and it could have cost them late in this ball game. But that's essentially Texans and Titans. Texans get the W. They hold on 27-20, go to 3-1 on the season, take a a commanding 2-game lead over everyone in this division. And they're the class of this division. It's easy to see that right now. I don't see this division improving. I don't see anybody challenging them. The Colts were supposed to be right there with them. They blow an opportunity overseas to get back to 500. And so now it's this Texans team's division to lose. With or without J.J. Watt, it doesn't matter. They're the best team in this division, and they're the only ones that can stop them from winning this division. And so for the Titans, another hard luck loss. Had opportunities, more opportunities than you could ask for in a game to win it, and they just simply failed to take advantage of these opportunities. Then you surrender the punt return. That's a bitter pill to swallow there when you're on the road and you're scratching and clawing trying to get a win, and you give up a punt return, which ends up being the game-winning score in this ball game. That's, again, a tough and bitter pill to swallow. So let's get to some of your comments here. Enrique Valencia says, what's wrong with Marcus Mariota? Is it a system fit or is he just having a slump? These are some of the issues that I talked about with him coming out of Oregon. I mean, I'd be lying to you if I said I was surprised. I wasn't that enamored with him last year. This year he comes in and they kind of fit the system more to what his strengths are. A little bit more of the read option, a little bit more of him in the shotgun. They're handing the football off like they said they were going to do. I mean, DeMarco Murray had 25 carries in this game. I'd like to see Derrick Henry get involved a little bit more, but at the end of the day, he's still got to make throws, and he's failing to make throws into tight windows. Guys are open. They're not college open. They're open. They're NFL open, and he's got to make those throws, and he's not making those throws. Everything's kind of flat. He's not putting enough air and trajectory on the ball. Everything's kind of flat on a line, and I think he's not throwing with that touch that he needs to throw with. He seems to be aiming the football. That's my honest opinion, watching him throw the football. Instead of him just letting it rip, he's aiming the football. But nonetheless, these are some of the same issues that I had with him. And another issue that I had with him at Oregon, and even though he's already led his team back, is that he's not a great come-from-behind quarterback. They weren't down a lot at Oregon. They were ahead and they were blowing teams out. So I don't know if that's something that's innate in him to be able to come back. But that's a non-issue. If you make the throws throughout the course of the game, you're not trailing late in this game. And that's the problem I have with Marcus Mariota right now. Enrique Valencia asks, again, are you concerned for Brock? He hasn't been impressive at all this season. Again, Brock Osweiler is starting for the first time. I don't understand why people don't understand this concept. He's starting for the first time as an NFL starter. This is his first, just like Kirk Cousins last season. This is his first year as a starter. And everybody is expecting this man to play like he's Peyton Manning. I don't understand these expectations that people are putting on him. They're unrealistic. He's a first-time starter, folks. First time being the guy in an offense where he's had all offseason to take the reins of a playbook and say, okay, this is my team. He's going to struggle. Guess what? They're 3-1. Okay? He's learning while he's winning. Yes, he's making some throws that I wouldn't like him to make, but guess what? It's a learning curve for him. This is the first time he's been in this situation. I don't understand why people don't understand how this thing works. You expect guys to just come in and despite only having 10 career starts, just start coming in and lighting teams up? That's not how it works. Brock Osweiler is fine. He's making some good decisions. He's making some good throws. There's some throws he'd like to have back. But at the end of the day, for you to say that he hasn't been impressive at all this season is a stretch. If he was that bad, they wouldn't be 3-1 right now. Simple as that. He's made throws this season. He's made mistakes this season as well, but those are going to happen. He's a first-year starter. I don't understand what everybody's expecting from Brock Osweiler. I just don't. I am baffled here as to what everyone is expecting. I guess because Russell Wilson and some of those young quarterbacks, your Dak Prescotts and your Carson Wentz's, they've set the bar so high that they expect everybody to exceed or meet that bar. That's not how it works. Everyone doesn't mature at the same rate. In life, at quarterback, period. Everyone has their own maturation and their own process that they go through to grow at their respective positions. He's taking a little bit longer, but he is a first-year starter. Simple as that. They're 3-1. I don't get it. I don't get the criticism of Brock Osweiler. I just don't. But it is what it is. They're going to criticize him. I think a lot of people just don't like the fact that he got broken off after only having 5 or 6 career starts with the Denver Broncos. I think that's where the issue really lies. It's a lot of hate for Brock because he got paid and people didn't think he deserved to be paid. And to me, that shouldn't matter. Bottom line is the Texans needed a quarterback. They overpaid. Sure, they overpaid for one, but they needed one and they got one. I just don't understand. At the end of the day, the Texans are 3-1 and everybody else in the AFC South is 1-3. So it's going to do it for lockdown coverage of Titans and Texans. If it happens in the National Football League, whether big or small, we cover it all here in the lab room. Come back and join your man Louie T as I continue to break down any and everything in the National Football League. Remember, we're changing the game one live feed at a time. Got many more games to break down in week number 4, including Jets hosting the Seahawks. And after that, Lions at the Bears. Oh my. I'll see you a little bit later on. Have a good one. This is your man Louie T on Lockdown Coverage.